Oh, hello, garden lovers. Do you want to walk in the garden with me today? It is actually, we have some bad weather coming, and we're actually been having rain like on and off for, I don't know, a week and a half. And then we're gonna get a break tomorrow, and then back again towards the end of the week. So I'm not complaining, but unfortunately the rain is causing havoc on some of my plants with black spot, because it's with the rain and being in the southeast US. We have the rain, is a big contributor to humidity, so the black spot is kind of ruining my mood at the moment. So what I've been doing is I've learned my lesson not to actually use poison in the garden, especially with the roses. So I just been defoliating of the roses, and then I cut back some of the irises that were infected, and they'll just come right back. So no big deal about that. But you know if you really love roses and you live where I live, that's really the price that you're willing to pay, is constant attention to the roses, and hope for the best. But so I am actually doing some cleanup. I think I'll show you the ugly part of you know the garden right now. But I I was hauling my debris to the burn pile, and man, the light is just so perfect, or it became so perfect, and I thought I'll stop and do a video, as long as you don't want to see my nails, which I did. I gave myself a manicure late yesterday afternoon after I planted an evergreen, and here I am again, back at it. So what can you do, right? So right now the garden, it looks pretty good. So the dahlias that I planted in this pot, which is actually one of my estate sale finds. I don't know if I've told you that already, but I love that pot so much. It looks so French, and it looks so already patinaed. And I don't know if I made a mistake of planting that in front of this another thrifted pot. But I don't know, we actually had a gender reveal for my oldest son's soon-to-be baby, and so I thought, for some picture taking area. So we had like balloon art kind of over that, and a chair, and so I don't know if I'll move it, because the dahlias are kind of covering part of the pot, but then it's only from this side. So the three sides actually, it looks okay. So I don't know, I'll just leave it that way. And then I don't know if you remember when I first planted that pot, or acquired and planted that terracotta pot, this area right here, it was sometime late March, so it was bare and stark, and now it's actually the liriope and the Virginia creeper actually is giving it some vibe, and I knew that was going to happen. But when I posted a lot of pictures and videos on Instagram, you know, it didn't really look good, but here it is now. I love it. And so what's blooming in the garden aside from the honey proven winner up Supertunia are the Gerber daisies are still doing its thing, and also the I can't see, the penstemon are also, the rain is it's falling down from the rain. And then let me go over here, the liatris or gay feathers are also about to pop open. And look, this clump of penstemon is already ruined by the rain, so it's all basically done. When they usually go through May and part of June, but you know, what can you do? But there's, you know, quite a few pollinator foods, so I'm not worried about it. So here's the liatris, and I think I've already mentioned it before that I bought a bag of liatris from either Walmart or Home Depot, and I believe there was like a lot in it because, you know, they're like tiny corms, so I'm pretty sure, you know, they're not so expensive to sell by the growers, so they put a lot in a bag. And so I just like literally stick my finger in the soil and then stick a corm in it, and they're everywhere. So I can't wait for that to pop up everywhere in the garden. But for the meantime, let me pull this wisteria. It's a battle, and I can't let it win because it's very invasive. And one of the mistakes that I made when I started out gardening in the South. So yeah, it's not a good thing. Maybe it's a good thing in England and they're very beautiful there, but not in the hot part of the United States, because it will ruin foundations, water lines, and whatnot. So, and so behind the kind of purple penstemon is the spigelia, which is the orange, red-orange flower over there for the hummingbird. I also planted, I usually plant this guy in a pot, but this is for the hummingbird, the pineapple sage, which is good for tea. It's an herb, and so I'm pretty sure it will bloom as soon as the hummingbirds are close to arriving. And then this white foxgloves is also drooping from the rain, and it's backed by the spiderwort, which is the purple blue thing right there. And now the sun is coming back. And I also purchased, which I think I mentioned in my last video, this cedar, which is a small cedar, so it will get up to I think 15 feet and 4 feet wide, so it's perfect for the middle of the sunny border, and that will give me the winter interest that I'm looking for, that I'm slowly fixing or remedying in the garden, because you know when I sort of quit my job to really pursue gardening full time, because it's my love, it's what gives me joy, and I don't want to get old and keep working and get old and not be able to do this. So I'm one of those fortunate where I have somebody that afforded me to stay home and do this. And so the Verbena bonaerensis, and I purposely put them there to kind of add height and color on top of, especially the the blue eyes that is there, that big clump in there. And it blooms in the spring, and then it will just stay green for the rest of the year. And so I needed something to kind of not cover it, but kind of beautify the bush without compromising it. And so so I dug them up from my backyard, and there's 3 of them, but it looks more. And I'm hoping they would colonize and get the clumps get bigger in time. But that's only its second year, so I put him there last year, and look how they're doing. And then also the bluebeard or chiropteris, it's blooming, and one of the favorite for pollinators. And it's also, if you want a recommendation for a bush like perennial, there it is. It dies back in the winter, and then it kind of have shoot offs on the sides that you can dig up and transfer, that I've actually done. And I'll show you, it's behind me when we turn around. But so through the arbor, I have this generous gardener trying to climb, and the growth, despite the black spots that happened earlier, look at the new growths. And so maybe it will finally climb a little higher this year. And there's the black spots, which turn the leaves yellow, and then it eventually fall off. So I'm just constantly coming here and cleaning all the roses up so it will have a chance. And then behind this old bird bath is actually some color. So this is the echinacea, the yellow echinacea that I got from Ohio. So that's probably around 3 years old. And I love that the leaves are not the typical echinacea. It's kind of strappy, and it contrasts well with the limelight. And so when it's done blooming, you don't even know that it's there. And so this is the back of the border where the Verbena bonaerensis are. And then also this blue-eyed Susan, which is a weed that I leave in the garden, along with the rose campion that are just sprinkled all over the garden everywhere, because they're self-sowers. And then I'll come back to that area and show you my favorite. But here's another wisteria. Trying to get to the root. But when it rains like that, that's when they get really happy and start popping up everywhere. So it's been a struggle and it's been a battle, and you know, what can I do? I made a mistake, and all I can do is really to be on top of it, and then to sort of balance the yellow of the echinacea and the brown-eyed Susan is this leopard's bane, which is also yellow, one of the plants from the sale rack from a big box store. And then over here, I still couldn't find the grass that I'm envisioning in my mind to plant here. So yeah, that's blank and empty right now. But hopefully it's getting warmer. So it's almost the end of May. So pretty soon the grasses in the stores will be coming up, the warm grasses. So, and then so I also had, if you see the stump there, I had a small tree, Rose of Sharon, which was beautiful and I loved it. It's, you know, I always photograph it this way and it gives like a little vibe, a little aesthetic. Look at all the ominous clouds. And I don't know, I don't know what happened. I think it got too heavy on one side and it finally just fell over. But there's, you know, a sucker that's, you know, I'm gonna use to replace it. But, you know, it's not the same. It's gonna take years before I get that aesthetic back. But speaking of aesthetic, look at that bird feeder bottom that I bought from an estate sale without the top, and I didn't do anything to that, but the Virginia creeper just climb and it's gorgeous. One of those things that you didn't even have to, you know, to do. Nature's art. So, but okay, so the sun went away again. So this is what I'm really excited about. This is a tall, not bachelor's button. What is it? Scabiosa or scabiosa. So it's probably, the stem is probably, I don't know, over a foot, because the old scabiosa, the common scabiosa is very short, and for that to be tall, you know, it's good for arrangement. So look how small the plant. I purchased it last year in the middle of summer, and then this year it's blooming. I also had a blue, which is actually done blooming, and there's another one. So I purchased 3, and so yeah, one of the many plants on my wish list that is hard to buy locally. And this is also a Veronica, which is purple palace. I always call it purple palace, but it's down that, you know, line, purple palace, whatever. And look, there's a fallen verbena, but and then there's a pink foxgloves. I'm actually gonna buy more foxgloves and put it in the hellebore bed to give it, you know, some color during the summer. when the hellebores are done blooming. And then my Abelia, which is the kaleidoscope, it put on that big of a growth this just a couple of days ago. I think it's, I'm gonna say, third year in the ground. And last year I was worried it didn't do anything, it just sat there. But now it's finally, so if you want color, if you want to break up all the green in your garden, this guy, it's actually like a short variety of Abelia, because if you know Abelia, it gets, I don't know, 10 feet tall. I had an old variety and that I inherited from the previous owner, and it was huge. But this one, and then this is another pollinator favorite, especially the hummingbirds. And there's that bird bath column. And so yeah, and then this area right here used to have a lot of irises, and they're the one that I mentioned that were affected by black spots. So yeah, they will eventually come up pretty soon. And so patience, I guess. And then all my thyme ground cover, they're just going nuts. And so if you want a good ground cover, especially under your roses, thyme is the ticket. And here's another variety of thyme. I think this is called Razzle Dazzle because it has some variegation to it. And then the other one on the other side is woolly thyme. So I've just been, you know, like every time I go to the store, I look at the thyme offerings from the stores, and then, you know, I have lemon thyme, common thyme. So, and also the daylilies are about to explode, and here's a couple of bloom. This is just the orange wild daylily, but I also have other varieties. And then of course the Palace Purple Homestead Verbena has been blooming since April. So that's also another good hot drought tolerant verbena. And so let me come back here and I'll show you the short scabiosa and see how short it is. It's very short, but you know, it's still beautiful. But you know, the other one is taller, has a taller stem. Oh, and that's called Fema, which is Fama if you're interested. I also purchased that, like I said, not available locally or readily available in my area. Maybe it's yours wherever you are. But Fama, I bought it from Burpee Seeds. So there it is. And so, like I said, the bees and the pollinators love Bluebeard. And there they are. And also the blue estate sale pot, it's finally getting gorgeous with the dichondra silver falls all around it. And that's what I envisioned when I decided to get this Paul's Gold fall cypress. So, but that dichondra will eventually get fuller and thicker, and You'll see soon enough. Okay, so going back here, I have the little native plants. I don't even know what they are. They just volunteer there. And my butterfly weed is not blooming. So I don't know if it's just taking its time, but you know how it is. I had hostas that took its time and I thought they were not going to come up, but they eventually did. So yeah, so we're going in this path, and to the left is the hosta garden, and here's the hosta that I thought wasn't going to come up, and it's still not doing. Uh-oh, I don't even know where it's at now. It's still not doing well, so I think I'm just going to count that as a loss. And of course there's weeds growing, and so other than that, the hostas are coming back strong, and along with the heucheras, you know, this side of the path, it's actually looking pretty good. Let me show you that variegated yellow variegation, and then this one has white variegation, and then that one is August moon, because I'm a moon child. Of course I'm gonna have a plant with a moon in its name. And this is the latest heuchera that I planted, and the rose campion is blooming with it as well. And behind it is Empress Wu, which has gone large, and you know, it will get larger, I guess, in its maturity, but this is only on its second year, if I'm not mistaken. And then look, it's budding, and so that's gonna be gorgeous in a day or two when the buds will finally open. And then the longwort has gone really big, and then I planted this beautiful, and my plan was I was gonna this was a hanging basket, which was also a buy one get one. This was originally $20, and so I only paid $10. This beautiful shade of yellow begonia, and the contrast with that yellow with the dark leaves is gorgeous. And then in this pot, the grass, which is red rooster, I shouldn't have cut that back, but I did, and so I don't know if it will recover, but it looks like it will. It might just take a little time. So for the meantime, I just planted some chartreuse coleus in there with an ajuga that I kind of dug up from somewhere over there. And I also dug up some ferns from our ditch by the road. A friend of mine was here one day, and so we went there and dug up a couple, which I dug up 3, I think. And then there's the hellebore bed, and hostas that I planted here didn't come back, and I was sad because there were 3 of them, and it was a large hosta. It would have covered the empty spots, the blank areas, but no worries. I think I'm just gonna buy foxgloves and maybe some hostas. But yeah, I would have planted some hostas there already, but I was waiting for the ones that's already been there, and they kind of failed me. So all the delivery people, they run over my rocks all the time. I'm tired of fixing it because that happens every week. And then, like I said, the daylily is about to bloom, and behind it, the chartreuse in the middle of it is the Ghost Dancer Japanese maple, and it's a slow grower. I would have loved for that to tower over the whole bed. You know what I'm saying? Like tower over all the plants, but what did I say earlier? Patience, patience, and I don't know. Uh, I'm really trying to have patience. Otherwise, I'm gonna buy a blood good, and which is a dark wine colored Japanese maple. I used to have one where that lady is, and it was huge, and then it died because of neglect. Because work kind of get in the way of gardening sometimes. But the Solomon seal, I'm not really worried. I know we strive for lushness in the garden, but this Solomon seal, which is variegated and beautiful, I have plenty that I'm gonna dig up. I'm gonna show you where I'm cleaning up on the side of the house under the kitchen window. But I'm tempted to plant more because like I said, I'm gonna dig up a lot from under the kitchen window. But this will colonize in no time. I just planted them last year there, which I dug up from where I said they were. So I don't really want to overdo it. I'm not that kind of person where I know I want instant gratification, but I also don't want to do double work. So I'm just pulling this oak seedlings. So I don't really I don't want to do double work. I want to plan accordingly. So I plant it once, and if it gets big in a couple of years, that's another story. But in a year or two is a very big different story. So yeah, the fern, I planted it behind my cairn, which is an ancient practice of stacking rocks in the ancient world, where they use it as road signs or burial markings. So yeah, I'm actually proud. I pick up all the rocks from all the rocks in my garden I picked up myself. And so yeah, that's gonna be gorgeous. Sort of a backdrop behind the cairn. So cairn is CAIRN, if you're interested in looking it up and maybe doing some yourself. And so I have purchased too many garden art, but this is really a heavy duty iron. Most of the garden arts you see are kind of flimsy. This is really heavy iron, and so I got it because it was really cheap. I think it was, I don't know, $2, and I use it to support the blooms of the native heuchera, which is just a green heuchera, and it has way, like, what is it, maybe 4 feet tall stalk for the blooms. It's just a native variety, and then it's growing in the middle of the ajugas. And yeah, so this is the very dry shade garden that I have been cultivating and really practicing and testing my patience, because it takes so long for the plants to kind of grow and kind of grow wider, because of the condition of the soil, which I'm trying to remedy. And I'm also, like, just last night, I fertilized all of them with a liquid organic spoma. I think it's called Bloom or something like that for blooms. But that's what I have, and so that's what I used last night while I was fertilizing the roses. And so, but look at that though. It's almost there, really filling in, and that green with that lime, and then with that dark heuchera, and then pretty soon, I'm pretty sure next year that Hakone grass is gonna hopefully double in size. It's gonna cover the base of the urn and also kind of fill in that gap. So yeah, if you've seen Hakone Cloa, it gets really big. So, and I didn't buy a big one because, like I said, this is a very bad, full of bad area, full of roots from oak trees and whatever trees is in here, and also rocks. So and that's why my plants are not instantly lush, because I buy the little pots just for that reason. It's really hard to dig in here. So but I'm getting happy, and then the cast iron plant is gonna stay evergreen, and that's gonna be my evergreen aside from whatever I want to plant in that urn in here in the winter. So yeah, so I'm constantly taking clippings or pieces of ajuga and kind of just distribute it everywhere in hopes that it would eventually cover this whole area one day, just like it's covering here. Of course, they're in the path of all places, but they bloomed. They're the first one to bloom. This is just the remnant of the bloom, and a beautiful blue in the spring. So yeah, I used to snub ajuga, but there's also, maybe I snub the regular green, but this one is kind of wine color leaves ajuga. So see how it contrasts with, especially with the plants with variegation. So yeah, so everything is going well. And so now let me take you to the bad and the ugly that I neglected. I, to my defense, I was kind of busy. Like I said, we had that gender reveal, and it takes time. I concentrated in this area to make it presentable for the attendees, and so I neglected the part which they really it wasn't obvious for the guest. Oh, and there's another wisteria. But look at this first love Veronica. I think, see how it's kind of leaning this way. It's like looking for sunlight. And I have 3 in there. There were also sale plants from last year. So they get big. So I was thinking, oh, it would be good to fill in here. But I think I'm going to have to move that guy. I think it's too shady there. Unless I'll cut some of these limbs. But I don't know about that. They're too big for me to handle, I think. And here's a wisteria again. And let me go to the other side. Yeah, the storm is just dropping all kinds of limbs everywhere. So here's this wisteria. Oh, okay. And so this one, for some reason, every time I get near it, I remember it was the same one from earlier. It's Royal Candles. That's what it was. So it's beautiful blue, and it got really wide in no time. So that was nice. Sorry, hubby is going to take the trash. So that's the car noise. But let me take you before we go to the ugly part. In this area, this is the other blue pot with the dichondra, and the yarrow is gonna get big, I think, again. I dug up a bigger one on the other side last year and gave it away because it was falling over everywhere. And then also new this year, I used to snub straw flower, but I don't know, they kind of, caught my eye this year. So the botanical name is Bracteantha rose. This is the rose, and this is Bracteantha yellow. So I was gonna get another, maybe two more, one of each, to go in there. And here's the other bluebeard or Caryopteris that I dug up, and it was just a little stick, and look at it now. And then another clump of penstemon in there. And then let's go to the shade real quick. So this is the butterfly garden, and it's doing so well considering most of the plants that I planted there were sale plants from last year. But I don't know, this year really, the spring was very different. A lot of plants just gone wild big, what I mean. And then also this love in a mist or nigella. I don't know what variety it is, but it's 2 or 3 different shades of blue. So that's like a pale blue, and then there's a darker blue, and then there's whitish blue, and also the aguilija or columbine seedlings. I kind of throw in a bunch of seeds there last year, and they just all came up, which was so wild to me. And then another daylily that's blooming, and then that's a Shasta daisy. I think it's a short variety, a sale plant, like I said. And then this is another Veronica, like the first love that I just showed you. It's pink, but it's kind of different growth habit, and it's called Candila pink. Candila in Spanish means candle, so literally in English it's pink candles, like the royal candles. And also I didn't even know how this blue semi-bush plant in there is Chinese forget-me-not. I don't know how I got there. All I know is a relative from hubby's relative from Missouri, when his aunt died, one of the children sent us a packet of forget-me-nots, for their mom. And I don't know if that's from there, but the forget-me-nots that I know are like ground covers, but I didn't know about the dark forget-me-nots. But look at the blue of that nigella compared to the other ones in that side. So that's from, I'm not kidding you, one bloom from last year. So I threw in a packet of seeds of nigella in here, and only one bloom, with one bloom. And then all of a sudden, they just came up like late fall. They started coming up, and I didn't even know what they were. I thought they were weed, and I just left them there. And there's a hardy geranium, and I think this is Roseanne. It's the blue, beautiful geranium. And then another Shasta daisy, and this is a germander herb, and that's like 100 times bigger from when I planted it. And this space right here, I'm still not sure. Ooh, here's another hosta that was kind of taking its little time, and it's still little compared to the other hostas that I'm going to show you. So I don't know why, but you know, nature, really, you don't know what nature does, and you're just at their mercy. But in this area right here where this blue fescue is, I thought there is a fern in there that's also taking its time, but I thought I'm just gonna put like one fescue, two fescue right here, and call it a day, and then something in here as well. Like here's the other ferns, and so there's the three of them in there. And here's the ajuga that went nuts, fat in here, which I'm not mad at it. Unfortunately, it's kind of not contrasting with that Palace Purple Heuchera, but it's contrasting with the Japanese painted fern though. So, and then this guy I already deadheaded, and look, it needed to be deadheaded again. So I don't even remember. I'm not gonna lie. I don't remember the name of this salvia. So, but the more you deadhead the old blooms, the more it reblooms or reflush, and that should bloom until the fall with salvias. Like I said, if you keep deadheading. So another pretty purple, pinkish purple. Believe it or not, I'm a plant person first, before a gardener, and so I just love plants. And you know, when people tell you that, you know, buy what you love and eventually they will go together, and somehow yeah, I guess that saying is true. Buy what you love, everything will just go together somehow. But look at this hosta. So they're all planted all at the same time, with that little tiny one in the front. That one actually is being swallowed right now by this clover, but that clover is gonna die back in the heat of summer, and we'll give that hosta in there room. So this is guacamole. That's guacamole. And then that one right there, I think, is a Biqua drinking gourd. I know, I just experimented with different kinds, and there were also sale plants. But as you can tell, I'm not too excited about that one. Not like, you know, the brightness of the guacamole. Sorry, I'm pulling weeds while I see them. And then of course that's a sedum, which is autumn joy, an old standby, and just grow when it gets picked off and land somewhere, and that's what happened to that. So another clump of daylily. That is St. Andrew's cross there with that small leaf, and that would get taller and bigger. And this is of course the what is it called, tequila lime. Maybe I'm thinking about margarita, but a twist of lime, that's what it is, heuchera. And that's also a sale plant, and look how big it got. And of course the chorus is kind of continuing the yellowish chartreuse. And also this is another one that you keep deadheading, and there's 3 of them, and look, they're coming back again. So I just deadheaded them the other day. So they're the geum. There's actually a really muted orange gem that I love, and I'll get some if I see them in the store. And it's a little taller than this variety as well. So I bought them because I planted them at the edge there. And of course this is the purple coneflower that I transplanted. And then another one of my wonder is this Gora. I'm not crazy about this Gora, I'm not gonna lie. I'm sorry, Gora, but this was also like a 4-inch pot sale, $2 sale, and there's another one over there from last year. But I guess because of all this is a no dig bid, and all the mulch and compost that I put in here, that's why it got so big, like in one season. But I like the whirling butterfly variety. It's kind of not thick like this, and then the stems are long and wiry, and so kind of airy. And but you know, I was just kidding, little Gora, you're beautiful. And then here's the other Liatris that I was telling you about that came in a bag. Look, it's gonna be, I was hoping it will get taller than this. I was hoping it will get, 5 feet tall, which maybe next year. And then here's a volunteer jewelweed, which, is the antidote to poison ivy, skin dermatitis that, the poison ivy causes. And this is the eryngium, or sea holly, and that's gonna be blue. Like I said, blue, white, and pink, I guess, is what I love. And then this pugster buddleia, or butterfly bush, is going wild. It's a short variety, so that's why I planted it there, because the buddleia that a lot of people know is very tall, about 6 feet tall. So this is just a pugster purple. And then this rose, also planted last year, was really beautiful. During the gender reveal, I just deadheaded that. That's why it looks kind of sparse. But it was full of blooms, and so thick, and so lush. And then the bloom time is over, and then of course this is not as infected with black spot as the other roses, but it still got infected. And so really, if the only solution is to do like a scientific sort of poison, meaning you kind of feed the rose with a synthetic antifungal, whatever disease, black spot or drip kind of solution, but it will also kill the bees and the pollinators. So I rather just defoliate them and practice, you know, good cleaning habit by, you know, removing the diseased parts that kind of drop underneath, so it wouldn't reinfect. But like I said, that's how it is. The same thing in the Pacific Northwest because of the dampness. So, you know, what can you do? But that was a beautiful rose. I cannot even get over how beautiful it is and how satisfied I am with this rose. This is from Heirloom Rose Company, and because it just grew that big in one season. And here's my other Buddleia, which is, it's putting up this big growth. It's also a short variety. Unfortunately, I can't remember the name. So it's also purple, and the contrast with the leaves is beautiful. So bunch of soon to open blooms in there, and then this grass, which is a cold season grass, so meaning it comes up in February, and while the warm season grass, they wait until May or so. And then here's my veggie planter. This was my arugula that bolted, so it's still a beautiful flower. And then I actually have a nigella that the birds probably, or it just jumped over there by the fence with the weeds. So that's the beauty of self-sowers. And then I also have a moonflower. I guess I'm gonna have to step in here. I planted a whole packet around this stump. It's a morning glory, but see how big the leaves are, because it's a moonflower. It's bigger flowers than the regular ones. But that's the only one that came up out of the whole packet. So and there's a lily also from a bag from Home Depot, and it's a dark black night, something like that, color bloom. But look at that nigella. Into the wild the nigella went. And this is my sweet bay magnolia. It actually have a bunch of growth. I kid you not, this winter it had 2 leaves, and I thought it wasn't gonna make it, but it's grown a little bit, and so that's gonna replace that stump. Actually, it's a small tree, probably about 15 feet tall, type of magnolia, and it's, you know, it's a magnolia bloom, so it's gonna be pretty. And then you can see the daylily. Now that the sun came up, the daylily just opened kind of fiercely when the sun kind of comes out. And so, like, I just pan you. So from the fence, and then the Verbena bonaerensis, and then soon the limelight's gonna bloom as well. So there's gonna be blue and purple on top, and then all the colors on the bottom. And then of course the potted gardens, and yeah, not too bad considering. And then let me take you in front of the garage. And so this used to be clean area, but the leaves kind of fall in there, and I usually clean it, you know, in sometime in May. But then the spiderwort took over. Like, I just pulled some over in that space right there, so there are like probably, oh, the the remnant is still there. So I probably had one plant here and it just reseed and swallowed the path, and then this is actually like a circle planted area with soapworts, which is that the tall one is a weed, and then there's the Solomon seals, which is a big clump, and actually swallowed some of the trilliums that I have underneath. And so I'm gonna reclaim those. Oh, and I also have 2 thrifted just from last weekend. Urn planter. I paid $27 for 2. Gorgeous. They're concrete. So, but anyway, let me take you there. Another thrifted planter, which is a square one with like a flower design. And I just planted that geranium in there. And then that's the sedum that are all over, which I encourage it to grow and be a ground cover. But this is a flat rock that was going to serve as a dirt bath for the butterfly. You know what I'm talking about. Like this catches water, as you can see, and then you add soil and make like a dirty, runny soil, watery soil, and that's what the butterflies like to eat. I think they get some minerals from the dirt and then water from the water, of course. But I'm not too particular, so I just let the sedum kind of cover it up a little bit. And then this is a new planting, another old variety, Palace Purple Heuchera. And I thought it would contrast with the Euphorbia, which is yellowish, and then the Japanese maple, which is a cut leaf Japanese maple. So that doesn't grow tall, but the contrast with the Euphorbia and the maple is gorgeous, especially if the sun is not shining right now. But see, I started to clean the area, pick up all the leaves. Here's my trash. And yeah, it's kind of embarrassing, and look at all the leaves from the small tree camellia. It's huge. But so that's what I need to clean up, and then finish this paver right here, to make into to finish this patio. And then I can put like a bistro table here, and I don't know, and corral. There's frog. But anyway, so that's the ugly part. So I'm gonna end this video here. Hobby's back, and so thanks for coming along with me, and I hope you guys are working in your garden and busy in the garden and enjoying the garden at the same time. And I see you guys soon somewhere down the garden path. Bye.